I am Patrick, and this is Brian. Together, we're Just Got Played. We're at the Cloak and Blaster. Tonight, we just got done playing a game called Vampires and Villagers by Ask With Games. Join us for a horrifically good time. Vampires and Villagers. You're scaring me again, Brian. I don't like that.
Oh, okay.
Welcome back. Brian, tell us all about Vampires and Villagers.
Sure. Vampires and Villagers is a 2 to 4 player game. It takes about 30 to 45 minutes to play, in which it's set in an alternate reality with like a horror theme and it said like the 90s vampire wars, in which each of the players is assuming the role of like a coven of vampires. You have like a master vampire and a lesser vampire to start off with, and a couple of other random type cards. Essentially, the game takes place over 4 rounds, and each one of those rounds is basically when the village square of villagers is basically massacred. So it starts off, the first round, there's 4 of them. Once they're all eliminated, you move on to the next round, and then there's 6 in each of the subsequent rounds. So there's a lot of murdering mayhem, but it's kind of refreshing. I kind of like that. But each of the vampires, whenever they actually clear a round of the villagers, that also triggers like an event card that's going to come out and give them some other type of boon. Usually that will help them out more than the other players, but it also changes up the game. And there's 2 different types of those. There's war events and then there's terror events. And so there's like a different types of abilities in each one of those. The end of the game takes place once the 4th round is over, and you're going to tally up all of the victory points, and whichever player has the most of those is going to be the winner. How do you get victory points? There's a couple of different ways. The first part is when you're building up your crypt during a player's turn. The first thing they do is they draw a card and then they get to play a card. One of those types of cards that you can play is a vampire. If you play that vampire, he's going to be worth whatever his combat value is also going to be equal to victory points at the end of the game. So you can't lose sight of the fact that you need to build up a lot of vampires in order to score some major victory points in the end. That's how I ended up losing against Patrick. So he's just better at managing the dead than I am. The other way you can get victory points is during the course of when you're eliminating villagers from the square. If you eliminate 2 villagers of the same kind, you're going to get a bat token. Bat tokens are worth victory points at the end of the game. You also get bat tokens every time you clear the board of the villagers, or 1 round you're going to get one. And if you happen to eliminate at least 3 villagers in that process, you're going to get one. Another bat token. You can also spend these bat tokens at some point in the game in order to peek at some of the event cards and then to shuffle them. But sometimes the victory points are best kept, I would think, to the end of the game, especially if you have been not playing as many vampires as you can. The other types of cards that you can play are hunters, which is going to allow you to launch attacks against your opponent vampires, and they're going to get to defend with their thralls and their vampires. A number of cards, when they're played, they can be played face up or face down, and then they can get stealth tokens on them. Stealth tokens allow you to make additional attacks against the villagers, or it can be used defensively to help eliminate some of the villagers. A lot of times when you're making an attack against the other player's crypt, all the villagers are going to join in because they're rallying behind the hunter that you sent over there, or they're rallying behind another villager which had the leadership ability. There's a couple more things to it. A couple more interesting mechanics, but I think, Patrick, what was your favorite thing about Vampires and Villagers?
I think it was really immersive, and that's important to me in gaming. Obviously, I bring that up a lot. I really feel like you're hunting these villagers, and you're trying to manage the best way to attack them and kill them off all at once so that you can get some extra victory points. And there's a lot of the theme on the artwork of the cards are pretty horrific. There's some pretty unsettling things, and they draw on a bunch of different vampire genres. Like your vampire looked like the old rendition of Vlad, and my vampire looks like a newer, like, I don't know, 1970s version of Count Dracula or Count Chocula or
the Count. I think I saw.
The Count from Sesame Street.
Yeah.
Yeah. Worth 8 points. He's only worth 8 points, Brian. Anyway, so I would say it's immersion. I really feel like they did a great job with gameplay and structure to really kind of bring you into attacking villagers. And if there's one thing that you really liked about it?
My favorite thing about Vampires and Villagers is I think it's the depth of the strategy / replayability. We only got to play it once, but I can definitely see that there's multiple different avenues that you can go in terms of strategy. Like the first part, I was like attacking Patrick as much as I could and then trying to clear out the villagers rather than trying to play as many vampires as I could, which I think might be another strategy that I would take the next time going around, is trying to fill out my crypt with as many vampires as possible, just to secure those points. I went for a ton of bat tokens, and they didn't add up for me as much. But I could definitely see when you've got multiple players in there, the strategies could change. So it's definitely a game that I want to try again and try different strategies. So depth of strategy and replayability is my favorite thing about it. What would you say is the thing that you liked least about Vampires and Villagers?
It's going to piggyback off the theme and the immersion. I really wish they had chosen a different style of artwork. The concept behind the artwork was fantastic. There's a female vampire that's sitting on the edge of a bathtub that's filled with blood, and there's thralls that are like licking knives, and it's really not a child's looking game thematically through the cards, but the artwork is very cartoonish, and I mean like Sunday Funnies cartoonish kind of. Actually, the event cards, the artwork's very different, but on most of the cards, it's a little big doughy eye pictures. You mentioned anime, kind of. So I wish they had gone for more realistic art. That would have really, and the graphic art too. I feel like could probably use a little polishing as well. And if there's one thing that you dislike.
The thing I would say I like the least about the game is the written rules. We didn't get a chance to look at the how to play videos, and I think that would probably have been a good idea on how to set up everything. But reading from the rules, it took some time to kind of get through there and get the setup. And then also with the different types of attacks, and depending on, because there's really two separate attacks that can go on. You can be attacking the villagers, and then you can be attacking the other players. And a lot of the characters also have special abilities. So I kept finding myself having to re-reference back, okay, what type of card am I playing to attack who, and what do I do now? And so I think like maybe a flow chart or a reference sheet would be helpful in the rules. Either that, or if I had made sure to watch the how to play, because sometimes when I see how it's done, it just clicks a lot better. But going straight from the rules, I think maybe the rules could be modified with like a flow chart or something. Might make it a little bit easier.
They could definitely have tightened the screws and on the rulebook a little teeny bit.
Yeah. But anyways, Vampires and Villagers is coming very, very soon to Kickstarter, so make sure you jump over there in stealth form or mist form and back for your copy or two.
I'm Patrick, that's Brian. We're at the Cloak and Blaster, and we just played Vampires and Villagers. Thank you for watching. Come on, it didn't suck that bad that you lost, did it?
Well,
you are very competitive. Did it drive you a little batty?
Yes, I believe it did. So
every time you said bat tokens, it made me think that you had like a utility belt.
like Batman. So.
Well, Batman would use bat tokens.
What kind of production is this?